Hello and welcome back to Beckler Guitars and Repair, and today we're checking out a Gibson SG that I picked up for $400. So this thing needs a lot of work, and I haven't even went through it yet, so let's go ahead. Alright, so yeah, this is one of those guitars that you see on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist for a crazy price. You can tell by the photos that it needs a lot of work. Most people won't even touch those guitars because they don't know how to fix them or they don't want the headache. But I'm a person that gravitates towards those guitars because I have enough knowledge to know how to fix most guitars, whatever it may need. I know how to replace parts. I know how to fix most things. So a guitar like this, although it's still a risk because it could have some stuff on it that is, you know, beyond repair or just something that still doesn't make it worth it, I'm fairly confident when I see these guitars that I can fix them up and get them back to running order. And these are the guitars that are usually listed by people who don't know much about guitars, or if it was their brothers or their fathers or something like that, and they recognize that it's beat up and it needs work, so they're willing to sell it really, really cheap. This one, for example, I got off Facebook Marketplace and it was $400. I literally saw it like minutes after it was posted and I was in the car picking it up. So what we're going to do today is just go through this guitar, see what it needs, see what needs to be repaired, see what needs to be replaced, see if it's an original, see if we can get it back to playing condition, all of those things, and you know, at the end of the day, see if it was worth it to buy this thing. First up, this is actually a guitar that I really enjoy, a model that I really enjoy. This is a Gibson SG Special. It's a 2009, and these guitars had a satin finish, and they're specials. And this color is called Worn Brown, which is like a satin finish on a mahogany guitar. And yeah, it was like slightly aged too, so it looked a little worn in. But yeah, this guitar has seen some days. It's definitely a little worse for the wear, although I don't hate how it looks. I think these satin finishes are really great for like relicking a guitar over time. Like, they just really have a nice relic look after some time, and I think it adds to the look quite a bit. So we can see here we've got nicks and dings everywhere, and a lot of, in parts it's been really worn through the finish, specifically right here, right here. I was trying to figure out how this guitar got worn in this way. I think someone was picking, when they pick way up here, and then it was kind of wearing on these two spots. So some people just like to sit with the guitar and pick it, and maybe that's just the spot where they like to strum. Because this guitar has been played a lot, which I really don't understand how, because the first thing I noticed when I picked it up is the action is atrocious. So we've got our bridge super high, our tailpiece is super high. If you look down the neck, you can see, and this is one of the things that scared me from buying this guitar. You can see it's a banana, so it really has a curve. So that means that our truss rod is set with like very, very loose. So the actual curvature of the fingerboard kind of looks like this. So there's way too much relief in this neck, and the bridge is way too high. So that tells me that there may be a problem with the truss rod, which again, that would be the worst thing, because that is a hard fix. Sometimes you can put some washers on the nut here to get more real estate for tightening it, but if it's maxed out, tightened, and the neck still looks like this, we have big problems. That's going to be a major repair issue. So that's what I'm hoping is not the problem. I hope I can just adjust it without needing to do a repair on the truss rod. So that's one thing we're going to look at. Some brief specs on this model. So we've got mahogany body, the 490 R490T pickup set, which again is one of my favorite pickup sets. These have the Alnico 2 pickups, or magnets. Our top hat, 2 tones, 2 volumes, 3-way pickup switch. We've got an unbound neck with acrylic dot inlays. This is a mahogany neck with a rosewood fingerboard. Corian nut, silk screen, Gibson logo. There's a rather big chunk taken out of the headstock there. And then on the back, more wearing. So this is where someone's belt buckle or something was rubbing against the guitar when they were playing. Again, this thing's showing signs of being extremely well played. Like, there's a lot of play wear on this, which in its current setup, I don't see how that's possible. It would be very hard to play this guitar. And then again, I'm not sure if someone did this, but you can see how the neck is a different color than the headstock and the body. That means someone really was running their hands up and down this neck to the point where it really faded the finish there. Almost like a sanded neck, but done with just regular play wear. So that represents a lot of hours of play, unless someone sanded it down, but it looks too uniform and natural for that. And then someone had replaced the machine heads on this too, with some Grover machine heads. I really like these machine heads. They're very, very, very accurate and very good machines. And then we can see that it's a 2009 model, although it looks like it's been aged for about 40 years rather than, 14. And it looks like these tuners use the same screw holes as the originals, so there was no new screw holes made for this. They used the original holes. Alright, we're missing a string as well. And I'm not sure if the electronics works. I don't know anything. I literally just picked this up and wanted to film the whole process. So let's go ahead and get on the bench and have a closer look. I'm going to take off the strings, test the electronics, and check the truss rod. So I could just plug this in, but I want to get pickup readings as well. So this will confirm that the pickups are working, the electronics are working, and I can get readings. So I can get two birds stoned at once. And okay, yeah, we've got a reading there. And it seems to be the proper reading for a 490R. So that's another step in the right direction towards the, confirming these are original pickups. So the bridge is reading a 7.78 or 9. And the neck is reading a 7.56. And the middle is a 4.83. So that's all good. So yeah, like I said before, the action on this guitar, the way it is it's basically unplayable. Like, it's got such huge action, and there's no relief in the neck. It's like a banana. And this is the first thing I want to check, because if if there's an issue with the truss rod on this, that's the biggest problem that we could have, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and check the truss rod. So looking at this truss rod, I can tell that it's loosened off all the way. So there's no tension on this truss rod at all. So you can see that there's no thread showing at all. So that actually means there's a lot of room for adjustability. If we look down the neck, I don't know if I can catch it here, but yeah, there's a little bit of like a swoop. So that means the neck, it looks straight, but it definitely needs to be tightened. So let's go ahead and tighten this and see how straight we can get the neck. So yeah, there's no bite at all. Like, this is totally loose. So typically you just want to adjust it like a quarter turn at a time. I'm starting to get tight there. And oh yeah, already you can see that made a really big difference. The neck is already starting to straighten out quite a lot. Give it like 2 more turns. And then we can check with our notch straight edge how much relief is in the neck. Before there would have been a ton, but now that I've tightened it quite a bit, we can see if that made a big difference or not. You can see there that there's just a little gap in between the straight edge and the neck, and if I continue to tighten this truss rod, that gap will close. So I'm going to give it another like 2 1/4 inch turns here, and let's check. Yeah, and that gap is closing more and more. Give it like 1 more turn. And there we go. So the gap is basically totally closed now. So that's great. There's actually more room on the truss rod to tighten even further, but that's about as tight as we need to go. So that's great. That was my biggest fear for this guitar, is that the truss rod would have been maxed out and there'd be no more room to go, but that's not the case. So that's great. So now we know our electronics work, and there's not a problem with the truss rod. So that takes a lot of stress off this guitar. Everything else that could be wrong with it is pretty fixable. It might need some fret work, it might need some electronic cleaning, it might need a good setup and a set of strings, but that's all pretty easy to do. So yeah, I'm not at all sure why this guitar was set up the way it was when I got it, but someone had the tailpiece extremely high, which is an option. Some people like to tailpiece wrap, like they'll go over and around, and that gives a little bit of extra height, so the break angle with the bridge isn't as extreme, and that gives you kind of a little slinkier feeling, easier to bend on the strings, less tension. If this is down all the way, the strings are typically feeling a little stiffer. There's a little bit more tension on there. But whoever had this set up this way, maybe they're using it for slide, I guess. That could be one theory, but anyway, I'm going to set it up the way that I like. So let's have a look at our pieces here. So yeah, the pieces look original. We've got our Tune-o-matic bridge here. It doesn't look collapsed. It looks like it's in good shape. It's a little dirty, but yeah, looks as it should. And then we've got our tailpiece, which is full weight, and that's looking good as well. And this is the batwing style pickguard, so you have to remove the bridge posts before you remove the pickguard because it's mounted over top. And all right, I've got all the screws out, but it's oh yeah, there we go. Sometimes these are get a little sticky and stuck to the wood, and this one seems to be the case. I gotta be okay. Gotta be careful because you can lift the finish off, but again, on this type of guitar, looking like this, it's not the biggest concern in the world. And okay, yeah. Pretty dusty under here. Okay, so yeah, here's a look at our pickups. And yeah, it's got the braided wire, so that looks original. And the 490R pickups are congruent with the pickup readings that these are giving, and they look like they're all factory original as well. They have the Gibson USA engraving on the back, along with a T on the very bottom. So that looks as it should. And then have a look at our routes here. So the routes are looking clean. Not a lot of frillies or fluff anywhere. And then we've got WB for Warren Brown, and then SGSC, so SG Special. I'm not sure what the C represents, but yeah. And then there's our maple cap for our truss rod right there, and there's our longer neck tenon. So yeah, everything looks as it should. There's no surprises under here. Alright, and here's a look at our electronics. So this year of SG Specials was using the PCB board. But yeah, everything looks original, not replaced or messed with at all. We've got our Gibson branded pots, and yeah, everything looks straight from factory. So that's another bonus. That's always a risk when buying a used guitar, especially a cheap one that has, you know, that looks like not in the best shape. A lot of parts could be replaced or swapped, or who knows, but this one appears to be all factory original, and a little dirty in the cavity, but the route looks good, and everything is as it should be. So with the old strings on it, when I adjusted the truss rod and lowered the action a little bit, I was actually able to get a pretty good setup on this with the old strings, and I didn't notice any buzzing out, fretting out anywhere. So now if you look at the fingerboard, you can see some of these frets have some divots and some marks here. So what I would say I'm going to do is I'm going to use a recrowning file and trying to file out some of these more major divots. But I'm not going to go ahead with a full level and recrown, just because I found that it was playing quite well. So the only reason I'd be doing it is for cosmetic reasons, to get rid of some of these big divots. So I'm going to go ahead and file out some of these marks, and then I'm going to give it a polish and rehydrate the fingerboard, and I think that's going to be good. Once we test the fingerboard out for any buzzing or fretting out, I might go back and do some additional leveling, but if there's no need to do it, then I'm just going to leave it alone. Alright, here's a quick look at the oiled and polished fretboard. So yeah, I got those divots out, nice and shiny. I checked with the fret rocker too, and everything's nice and level. And nice grain on the rosewood. So the next thing I want to do is, I like the look of this guitar, how it's relic. I want to keep that. What I do want to do though is, on this part here, we're down to the bare wood. Like, I can feel the grain on the wood. So there's no finish on this at all anymore. What I'm going to use is a little bit of True Oil. And I'm just going to go over it with like a microfiber cloth. And that's just going to provide a little bit of finish on there and seal the wood. So this is like a gun stock finish. And it's like a hand rubbed finish type. So just a couple coats just to seal the wood. It won't change the way it looks much, but it will protect against any moisture getting into the wood and cracking or swelling or anything weird like that. So I'm going to do it on all the spots that are just down to the bare wood, and that should do it. Alright, we're all set up and restrung. Just a quick look at the condition. Headstock's in good shape. There's one substantial ding there. I sealed that with the True Oil as well, so no moisture can get in. And our truss rod was in good shape. Our nut is cut really well, actually. And now our fretboard and frets are super shiny. And they look good. And there's a look at our bare wood. This is covered in True Oil now, so it's nice and smooth. It's not tacky or anything. It's dried now and sealed, and we don't have to worry about moisture getting in. And it still retains that like relic look. And yeah, bumps and scrapes and dings, but it fits this guitar pretty well. Then a look at the back. More scrapes and dings and finish wear. There seems to be little flecks of paint on here. I got some of them off. You can actually get them off if you scrape hard enough, but this might have been around when somebody was painting and just little flecks came off on it, but I'm going to remove the rest when I can. And here's that worn area in the back. I sealed that with True Oil as well. And here's our well-worn neck. I didn't touch this at all because it feels really nice. And actually the natural oils from your hands when playing will actually seal this. It's not worn through to the bare wood either. It's just kind of got that really smooth satiny finish of a well-worn in neck. And again, our machine heads have been replaced with these Grovers, but these ones work really well. And they didn't use any new screw holes. They used the original screw holes for these. And there's a look at our serial number, dating this to a 2009. And managed to get a really nice setup on this guitar. If you remember the action at the beginning of the video, this is a far cry from that. And there was no issues with the truss rod, which is great. That was one thing I was worried about. If you look here with my notch straight edge, you can see that the truss rod's set nice and tight. And there's very little relief in the neck. There's just a tiny little gap between the notch straight edge and the fingerboard. That's how I like to set my truss rods. And here at the 3rd fret, you can see when I use the 3rd fret, the string is just resting gently against that 1st fret. So we've got great action in the cowboy chord area. And our neck is straight and our truss rod's set nice and tightly. And then here at the 12th fret, we can see our action sitting at about 1 millimeter at the low E, which is nice and low. And then our high E, we're sitting at just between 0.75 and 1 millimeter. So yeah, very nice low action. Alright, I just want to run up and down the fingerboard to make sure there's no buzzing or fretting out anywhere. I like to speed up this part, but if you want to hear it in real time, just slow down the player to 25%. So yeah, very nice low action with no buzzing or fretting out anywhere. And yeah, the neck feels good. There's no fret sprout at all. And it's got that nice 50s C neck, so it's nice and chunky. Nice and light, weighing in just under 6.5 pounds or 2.93 kilograms. Width at the nut is 1.70 or 43.39 millimeters. And then a 2.06 inches at the 12th fret or a 52.57 millimeters. Neck depth at the first fret is a 0.85 inches or a 21.68 millimeters. And at the 12th fret, that is a 0.97 inches or 24.64 millimeters. And this SG in particular has a pretty flat C neck shape. It's more like a D, so it's pretty flat here on the first fret, and then it stays pretty fat by the 12th. So a little bit of a unique neck profile there, but it does feel good. And it's a 50s neck, so it's a little bit chunkier. So it's kind of flat, but still thick. It feels good. Plugged into my 1965 Fender Bassman. Here are my settings, and then I'm using a GTO Jim Jones Germanium overdrive pedal for my overdrive. It's a nice transparent overdrive. Just gonna go through each of the pickup combinations in clean and dirty, and we can hear how it sounds. Alright, yeah, sounds great clean. I do really like these pickup sets, the 490s R and 490T. This particular set sounds a little brighter than what I'm used to, but it still sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and try it with a little bit of overdrive. All right, so what are my final thoughts on this $400 2009 Gibson SG Special in faded brown? This guitar is what my channel's all about. I love being able to, you know, take calculated risks like this on old beat up guitars, and, you know, with the confidence that I should be able to fix it up. I've been doing this for, you know, a long time now, about 15 years, and I pretty much know how to do most things when it comes to fixing and repairing and even building guitars. And on this channel, I want to show people how easy it is to, you know, set up your guitars and fix small things, and, you know, so you're able to take risks like this and fix up your own guitars, because this is a crazy deal. This is a very nice guitar that I do not have a lot of money into, and it plays and sounds great. When I first got it, I thought that there might be an issue with the truss rod, but it was basically just set too loose. There was too much relief in the neck, so a couple turns of the truss rod and that fixed it right up. We sealed the bare wood spots with some True Oil. That was very simple. And yeah, a little bit of fret work, hardly anything really, just some divot fixing and polish, and rehydrated the fingerboard. And now it plays and sounds great. Super low action. I really love the neck on this. I love the 50 style neck on an SG. It just feels great, and the body's just super nice and resonant. I really like the look of it, that kind of old school relic look. And yeah, all the wear on this thing is pretty much cosmetic. There's no marks on the neck. The neck is nice and sanded down. It feels really, really good. Just naturally sanded down with like through play wear. There's one small chip in the headstock. Again, that's been sealed by True Oil. And yeah, really, really happy with how this thing turned out, especially considering the price that I paid for this. Again, this is kind of a high risk, high reward scenario for guitars. If you're confident enough to fix up your own, I would say go for it. Or if you know a luthier who doesn't charge much, or, you know, charges a reasonable amount, and you're reasonably sure that the guitar can be fixed up, you could always take it to him, and they could fix it up for you, and you still be under in terms of what you paid for the guitar. If you're interested in this guitar, I'm going to have it up for sale on the Reverb page. Thanks for tuning in to Beckler Guitars and Repair. I'll have more for you really soon. Thanks a lot.